Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about Torchlight Infinite Season 10 Overrealm. Now, the release date for the new Torchlight season is right here. For me, from Europe, it's right in the morning, so I'm probably going to start off in the morning after I wake up. If you want to check me out there, here, twitch.tv/Palsteron. In this video, I'll basically go over all the most important things you need to know for the season. If you want to go through the whole patch notes, which I personally do not recommend. They are quite annoying to read every single time. I will link them down in the description, but here is going to be a summary. Also, do note that if you read the patch notes, numbers will be subject to change up to 1 hour before league starts, so do that at your own merit. But let's go over the seasonal mechanic, the new heroes, and everything else that changed. First up, the seasonal mechanic is called, just like the league, Overrealm. So you go through a portal while you're mapping, and once you're in there, there's different layer of so-called rifts, and they're just different areas that you have to clear as fast as possible. And then there's extra rewards involved, which are random. In general, this seems like a very clear speed heavy meta once again. Now, you might say that's usually the case in Torchlight Infinite, but for example, last league in Outlaw, there was a little bit different requirements, right? It was more stationary. This time, it's going to be like velocity. You're going to have to be fast. The mechanic also has its own passive tree that you can level up over time and its own mini bosses, but that's kind of all we know right now. Then we have the new hero talent, which is Bing Creative Genius, and this one has inspirational machine. It's like a blue machine and a red machine. One builds up a certain resource and then the other one releases it as like a payoff or like explosions, depending on what you pick on his hero talent tree. And from what I see, it's very AoE focused. It is spell focused. Spell burst got buffed quite a bit. So in general, this hero, as always, seems pretty broken and will, as always, start on the battle pass and then next league go free to play. One interesting thing is you can take multiple different hero talents per level, kind of making it more customizable. If this is actually going to have really an impact, we're gonna have to see. Then we have a new item type called Ethereal Prisms, and these are similar to jewels in Path of Exile, where you put them in a passive tree on a certain point, and it modifies all the nodes around it, and it does something with your hero talent. And from what I've seen in the patch notes, these seem utterly broken. You can only have one of them, of the normal ones, and they don't only like either, so for example, they can change your hero talent or just give you a little bit of extra on top of what the talent already does. They also affect all the nodes in the radius, and that's kind of like the crafted part, where you have one legendary craft and then two other crafts that kind of impact it. And they seem pretty goddamn strong. So these are going to have quite a bit impact on your build. It's not just going to be a little bit of min-maxing. Meaning the talents seem 2 to 3 times as strong as a normal talent, and some of the modifications on top are like, I don't know, you are permanently on 100 blur. It's like, yeah, these are going to be a big deal. Now, while you can only have one of these normal prisms, you can have a mirror prism on top as a second one. And this one kind of does exactly what you think it does. It takes the nodes in the radius and mirrors it to the start point or to the end point. I don't know exactly how it works, but I think you can only put them at the end, and then it mirrors to the start, and it also enhances those nodes. So for example, it can make +1s into +2s or just increase percentage values on top. Now, I wouldn't really plan your builds around these because I cannot imagine that they are going to be cheap or affordable whatsoever, but definitely interesting consideration. Then we have 2 new skills. They are both combo themed, which at first sounds a little bit iffy, but they're called Crescent Slash and Serpent Beam. One is attack based, one is spell based, and one basically has a series of strike attacks, kind of like AoE strike combo, and the other one is a beam spell, but it is not channeled. So the way this works is they have 3 stages of attacks, as far as I understand. Attack 1, attack 2, and then the third one is like the big payoff at the end, and the first 2 are just there to generate combo. It sounds a little bit weird and annoying, but you can actually proc them with mediums, so you can automate them, as far as I understand. And looking at the formula for combo and looking at how they're balanced, they, I think, are going to be utterly ridiculous. I think in terms of clear speed, they don't look like a wow or anything like that, but in terms of numbers, I would estimate you're gonna see these pretty high up on the ladder. Now, then they wanted to address progression, which is the next point here, and they got a lot of critique about how hard it was to get from Time Mark 8 to Profound, which is such a big step, right, for a lot of people, and it is just kind of rough, like having to get that much extra damage, that much extra survivability, which is even more of a big deal. Yeah, it's kind of an issue, and the first thing they did is they halved the ember costs of crafting, which I think is a good first step. There's some other mini, like really, really small adjustments they made. But overall, I think there's a little bit more that will have to happen over time. For example, I hate that ultimate mods are hidden behind priceless items. I think that priceless items already getting tier 0s and getting implicits is enough. I think that ultimate mods being able, like if you were able to get ultimate mods just before that, that would be a pretty big deal. But early game, I can't deny that having to pay half of the embers is definitely going to be pretty huge. Although flame element users are still going to be kind of like an issue. So yeah, I don't know if it's actually going to help, but we'll see. I think it will definitely help in the very early stages. So if you have an already incredibly good league starter, like for example, Mind Control, being able to craft your tier 2 gear is going to be even earlier. And then being able to craft tier 1 gear is going to be even earlier. But I don't know if that actually helps every build to get to profound. In fact, I think it needs a little bit more if you want to make build diversity a little bit more interesting. Now then we have Outlaw, last league's mechanic, which has been implemented into the base game. And from what it looks like, it has been pretty much buffed, although some of the character power that you get from sequences has been nerfed. So card checks are now going to be way faster from what I've seen. They said they made it 25 seconds now instead of, I think it was 30 or something. But from what it looks like, the goblins spawn way faster. So if you have a good build, you're never going to take 25 seconds, at least if the footage is accurate. And vaults are now approximately double as fast, which is a really big deal because it was barely worth doing last patch. And if it's not actually double as fast, then that's going to be, yeah, just a lot more currency per hour. Now, in terms of sequences, what they changed is they completely removed basic sequences, and then they made advanced sequences as strong as basic sequences, and they severely nerfed like the top end. Some of those crazy ones that you could never achieve are also gone. On top of that, sequences will not need any FEs anymore to roll. Overall, this might sound like a nerf, but I think that Outlaw is going to be incredible this league. It might even be better just in terms of raw currency output, not even thinking about sequences. So if you already have a pet from there, then you're probably going to have a good time. But I think that most people never played with those sequences, and maybe now they're going to be a little bit more affordable, which was, yeah, that was one of my biggest critiques from last league. And at the end, a few more quickie changes. There's going to be more compasses, more early game compasses, and more end game compasses that are going to completely change how you play and approach a map. Corrupted implicits are now tradable, which is very nice if you're going for certain modifiers, right? And it also means that your unique is not going to get account bound as much anymore, so less risk whenever you're corrupting something. I just realized how annoying it is to track which game says unique and which game says legendary, by the way, after playing like 5 different RPGs recently. Either way. After that, we have candles being completely removed. Eterna will stay though and will have other uses, right? They're increasing the amount of drop rate of other things in the city of Eterna. On top of that, I think removing candles and adding prisms, I think is overall going to be a huge improvement for almost every build. It's still going to be power creep, but they just wanted to reduce the amount of systems you have to interact with. Hardcore is now going to start 1 month into the league. I think they want to make it so maybe it has its own economy because people get tired of softcore and then they play hardcore. But I think most people, I don't know, are just gone at that time. I don't know if that's a really good idea, but I never saw Torchlight really as a hardcore game. Anyways, and then a big deal, especially for attack-based builds, after the campaign, you now get Activation Medium Motionless. And this one is basically like still attack, but it also works for spells. Although I don't really know if it's going to be that good for spells. It doesn't really work well with Spell Burst, obviously. But even on top of that, it's just made for attack-based builds. It's basically like still attack, right? And I think this is going to be a huge deal for attack-based builds early on. Berserking Blade, right? Thunder Spike. Erica builds, Rosa 2. Overall, though, rounding all this up, there's also legendary changes, right? A lot of new legendaries, especially Spellburst related, and yeah, related to Bing 2. Overall, I think this is a cool expansion. I won't really have that much to say until I get into endgame, though, because I think a lot of the things they added are only going to be available once you're in, like, later endgame territory. They didn't really adjust too many skills. They didn't really adjust too many early game items from what I've seen. So a lot of the skills that were playable last league are also going to be playable this league. A ton of the build defining items, for example, new talents, won't really be achievable early. unless I'm wrong and the prisms are going to drop like candy, which there is a possibility. But after seeing what sequences were last league, I wouldn't really hold my breath and I wouldn't really plan my builds around those. As for League Starter, you can follow me along, like I said, on Twitch, but otherwise I will be putting one out in the first week, probably towards the later end of it. As for what I will be league starting, most likely it will be Thea 3 Mind Control again. There is a chance I will be playing Bing 2, but first, most people are going to start that, and I also don't love starting with the paid character that's on the Battle Pass, because a lot of people don't want to buy the Battle Pass. So we'll have to see. Maybe I jump on the Bing 2 hype. There's definitely a possibility, but it's going to be so goddamn meta. So we'll have to see. Otherwise, Mind Control, from what I've seen, it got some nerfs, some buffs. Overall, I think the build is still going to be incredible. So if you want to check out that build guide, I will also link it down in the description. But yeah, other than that, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.